It wasn't muted. Actually, it was just not all the way in. So the light was on. Am I muted? Bitch, I'm fancy. Bitch, I'm fancy. I'm your aunt. My name is Nancy. Bitch, I'm fancy. Like Azazel Banks. See, you see what's up on the screen now? We fancy. Bitch, I'm fancy. Can you hear me now? I know. I ain't been to the boomer joke. I'm immune to it. It just bounces off me. Whatever any boomer joke is rubber glue, bounces on me, it sticks on you. Is that better? Bitch, I'm fancy. Bitch, I'm fancy. I got the screen set up like your aunt name is Nancy. Cause bitch, I'm fancy. Yes. Is it fixed now? See, I spent 2 hours with Tristana, beautiful Tristana, figuring out how to get all this fancy up here. You see all this fancy? I'm like Azazelia Banks. Fancy. Does she even sing that? I don't even know. Thank you. So now everything has to be configured in the exact way because Macs are just not really compatible with a lot of the OBS streaming stuff because it's really set for PC stuff. And every time Mac does an update, as you guys know, when it goes from like Sierra to Big Sur or whatever, and then all of this shit is no more compatible. So I know, right? It's fancy. It took me 2 hours to figure this out. And you know what it was? It's so dumb. It's the security settings. Okay. So you can't find the source in Mac because they have all these security settings to have all the fancy shit up, right? So OBS can't find any sources. And the whole secret, it took me 2 hours, was that you can't have the tabs down up in the queue. The tabs have to be open. It took 2 hours to figure that out. So thank you to Mac for making a system totally incompatible with OBS. So they just really don't want you to live stream. It's like, please don't do this. Just make those stupid YouTube videos like all the crypto videos where everybody's thumbnail on a crypto video is this. Or and they're shilling some stupid ass coin. Coom coin. Alright. Better stock up on Coom coin, baby. It's going to the moon. Coom to the moon. Anyway, yes, we're going to talk about Babylon Berlin. Now, I took 2 years of German, and I was starting to remember it as I was listening. It was starting to come back to me. Die Ruche, my backpack, right? And I was like, me gusta sellos. I love stamps. Ha ha, wrong language. What were we talking about? Oh, by the way, we just did a sweet hour plus podcast with Wecking Ball on Wecking Ball's podcast. And of course, everybody's podcast is private. So if you want to see the podcast with me and Wecking Ball shooting the Scheisse, shoot the Scheiße, shoot the Scheiße, der Puppen Schuppen. If you want to see that, go over to his Patreon, and I'll put a clip up. But we were cracking up. We were laughing at just stupid stuff. And Wecking Ball is very much in the vein of Sam Hyde humor. He put up a video on Instagram a couple of days ago I was doubled over, dude. I was rolling. It was so funny. Anyway, we had a good chat. We were making fun of handicapped people. We were making fun of disabled people. We were making fun of ants. We were making fun of white racist people. We were making fun of helpless poor people. I'm joking. We weren't doing that. I'm just screwing around. Everybody likes to talk about how mean we are, so I'm just giving ammo for the people that say that we're mean. Anyway, we are going to be breaking down a surprisingly esoteric show. I did not expect, although I guess I should have, because Gooster or Greedo, two of our Aussies from down under in the Discord, they said, "Oi, mate, you got to watch this here series," and we did. And it was not what I expected. And each season is a different theme. Same characters, but a different kind of mystery, right? It's like you got to beat the boss, the noir boss of each season. So there's only been 3 seasons. And it is, I believe, it's so it's Tom Tykwer, right? Tykwer is by the way, it took people forever. It took people like a year to get used to the jokes around these parts, and people still don't get it, dude. People are like, they don't think I'm crazy. They think we're mean. They think that we have mental problems, which is also connected to crazy. If you don't know, look it up, Google it. I promise you it's connected. They think we are, what else do they think? We on drugs. He is on drugs. He's on drugs. He's smoking drugs. Think I'm smoking drugs. Yes, I know. Run, Lola, Run. Now, actually, Tom Tykwer has made a lot of good movies. I watched most of his films because I watched Run, Lola, Run when it came out. Because as you guys know, I'm a long-time movie dude. Movie nerd, and it was very creative, very inventive, very late 90s, early 2000s. So what's her name? Not Famke Jensen, but that one made her famous. Then she was in the Bourne movie after that. Franca Potente. It made Franca Potente famous. And yeah. So then I watched all of his movies, I think, back in the day. And I took my German classes, right? So I had 2 years of German in college. I got A's and B's. I don't remember a lot of it, but it started coming back to me when I'm watching the show because I turned it on and it was like, I gotta read this. Why I gotta read a movie, dude? I'm trying to watch a movie. Gonna make me read the whole damn screenplay. I'm trying to watch a movie, dude, because it's in German. And yes, it is a degenerate Netflix production. So I hate to inform you. I'm sorry. I'm not recommending this to everyone because they do portray the Weimar Republic degeneracy in many forms and fashions. And they portray it. So I'm warning you, it's pretty degenerate at times. So you may not want to watch it. But if you are a fan of Neo-noir, if you're a fan of time setting, whatever you call them, time, period pieces. It's a period piece. It's got fluffy dresses. I love it. It's a period piece. I don't mean a woman's period. I mean a time period. Even though a woman's period is a time period. Not that. A period piece. Like Downton Abbey. Have you seen Downton Abbey? That's a period piece. This is a period piece, and it's set right prior to World War II, but it's in the period of 1929, 1930. So it's like 28, 29, 30. Season 3 just ended. They take a long time between seasons. I don't know if that's because of Koof or because it's a Tykwer plus German government production. So they put a lot of time and effort into the show. It's a very high production value show, and presumably that's why it takes so long. And it's an interesting mix. So we've got like the detective element, the hard-boiled detective, like Bogey. We've got loose women. Some might call them flusies. Some might call them ladies of the evening. There's no saloons, but there are flusies, and they might be called ladies of the evening. They play a prominent role in the Berlin underground, and in fact, and yes, there will be some spoilers, but I'm not going to tell you everything. So, but the show progresses from a initial story about blackmail, and it's blackmail using prawn, which was relatively new at the time due to the early stages of the camera. So yes, the camera's been around for a couple decades, but people were figuring out, hey, we can film nasty movies with this, and we can even film really nasty movies with it. And that's, you don't see the nasty, but they hint at the nasty, and they actually hint at more than you might think, in the sense of, well, I'm not going to say what it is, but essentially every type of prawn, the organized crime figures are connected to the prawn. And I'm going to warn you again, this is a bit of a spoiler alert. Our main character, the detective, Gereon is a fascinating dark hero figure who is a PTSD shell-shocked man. So he's shell-shocked from World War One. He's not at Tavistock because, of course, Tavistock is who figures out what shell-shock is. However, did you know that Germany had comparable programs to both the U.S. and to the U.K. and the Soviets as well? So the deeper that you get into psychology, psychiatry, behaviorism, behavioral studies, Pavlov, the MK Ultra doctors essentially doing the same stuff that Tavistock's doing, you start to realize this is networked. And as you guys know, we just covered extensive history of MK Ultra operations in Australia. Most people don't know that there were just countless MK Ultra operations that are documented, verified now, in most of the prominent Australian universities. Experiments with indigenous people, experiments in Papua New Guinea. It's crazy. I mean, it's like, what? I mean, I've been reading about MK Ultra for like 15 years. I didn't even know this until like a month ago. Because I found some dude's tiny book online. I read it. Not tiny in the sense of this big, but tiny in the sense of like, I don't know, 80 pages, 50 pages, 60 pages, like a small book. Not small book. And the point of all that was just to say that, so there was comparable programs in Germany, and yes, there is a connection between Paperclip, right? The Paperclip Nazi scientists being brought to the U.S., but that Paperclip wasn't just to the U.S. A lot of people don't know, which a lot of espionage history writers cover. There were also programs that took Nazi scientists to the Soviet Union and to the UK. So you can't think in these, simplistic dialectics, right? So some people theorize, multiple writers I've read. I want to say John Marks has this idea. I think Kurt Barker has this thesis that we don't exactly know what the MK stands for. But I think some people speculate, well, it's like the German for mind controller, or something like this, which that's probably what it is. I don't know. It's a theory, and I think Marx discussed that in his book. And that makes sense, and you will notice a certain ominous in the background figure in this series who keeps popping up. And he becomes very clearly uncloaked as the villain by season 3. And he is Herr Schmidt. Now, the fascinating thing about the villain is that we can't tell what's going on. It's not clear he's the villain until kind of season 2. I was like, okay, it's got to be that dude. And then clearly by season 3. And where I was looking for his character profile here. Anno? His name's Anno, right? Isn't it Anno? Jamie? Anno, right? Herr Schmidt? Right, Herr Schmidt, right? Yeah. Now, my thesis is that this guy's like a composite of different doctors. He looks like Carl Jung. So he's got to be a Carl Jung. And Carl Jung was connected to Tavistock. He was had a role in Tavistock. He was doing regression therapy and past life gibberish nonsense with the Rockefeller families. He convinced, or she was convinced through Carl Jung, I don't know how it works, that one of the Rockefeller daughters was convinced that she was the reincarnated child bride of Akhenaten Espaten, one of the pharaohs. I'm not joking. It's in the Rockefeller's authorized biography. So they were working with Jung, and Tavistock got Rockefeller money, and Jung was at Tavistock. So they're obviously connected. He's doing psychoanalysis with the Rockefeller daughters. Okay. A lot of people don't know this. I know this. Okay. I know this stuff. I know what I'm talking about. So I think the Herr Schmidt character is a composite of various ones, and he is clearly an M-Culture handler. Wow, right? We think, oh, it's crazy. We weren't expecting this. And I think that certain names of characters are chosen on purpose, not because the characters themselves are that significant, but they have names that are significant. Like one of the guys that works in the crime lab is Weishaupt. Adam Weishaupt, right? So I think Tykwer, and Tykwer has done some esoteric type films, right? He did Cloud Atlas, which I did analysis of. I know a lot of people don't like Cloud Atlas, but it does have a reincarnation Illuminati-ish theme. And if you've not yet seen all 3 seasons of Babylon Berlin, I will go ahead and tell you that this is about the Illuminati. Yes, 100% it is about the Illuminati. It will become very clear by season 3 in every kind of sense of the Illuminati. And ultimately, I'm going to read it the way, if you've read John Fowles' famous novel, The Magus, or if you've seen the Michael Caine version of The Magus, I don't think it's that bad of a film. It's actually all right. It's bloody all right. It's an okay film, and not as good as the book, obviously, but the Conchis character in The Magus is, he's working with a bunch of psychiatrists and psychologists and psyops people. So he's like a Herr Schmidt character, right? And in the Fowles book, they're called the Illuminati. But in the Fowles book, the Illuminati are scientistic, psychological technocrats, right? Yeah. I'm just pointing out that Tom Tykwer, I don't care about Cloud Atlas. The point is that I'm pointing out that Tom Tykwer is making movies that have clearly Illuminist, Gnostic, literally Illuminati themes. I mean, I don't usually say something's Illuminati just to talk, stupid internet bullshit. No, I'm saying it literally is about that. Okay. I mean, first of all, they've got the character named Weishaupt. And if you know, in the French Revolution, in that period, Weishaupt had a code name. He was Spartacus Weishaupt, because it was a form of revolutionary communism, right? So Illuminism, Illuminati, it's really just communism. And as you watch the series, you'll notice, actually, it's a pro-socialist message. Shocker, right? So on the one hand, there's actually several critiques that I'm going to agree with in this film, because they make a big point to critique the bankers and the speculators destroying the German economy. Yes, and I think they're totally spot on. In fact, they go a lot further than this. So I almost think, season 1, I'm watching this, I'm like, this is like they've read Carol Quigley, right? I mean, it's like, or they've read Anthony Sutton, right? Professor Sutton's books, Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler, Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, because in season 1, we get to see the players and the the circles that are all intertwined. And so you think, oh, I'm going to be watching a detective show. This is not just a detective show. This is actually a insight into how wars happen, the intricacies of the networks and webs of groups involved in wars and in organized crime and in intelligence agencies, and how the banking elite corporate class can engineer these things. So even though the ultimate bent of this show is leftist and kind of socialist, it's actually correct in the critique of the economy that it makes, in the critique that it makes of some of the espionage elements. I mean, they even talk about the train of gold. Okay, now it doesn't exactly say, oh, this was Warburg's train of gold for Trotsky, but Trotskyites are after this train of gold, which was from one of the prominent Russian families, and the heiress in season 1, as we find out, is actually not really well, she's a Stalinist, right? So she's actually an assassin for Stalin, and so we have this play about the right, because we know from mainline history that Stalin has Trotsky killed, right? I think in Mexico. Well, here it's kind of like what's going on in Germany is that Stalin has this heiress who's playing she's an actress, which is interesting because there's that Olga woman. I'm not positive it was based on Olga, but the famous actress of that time period, the 30s, Olga Chekhova or something like that. I can look it up in a minute, but she was actually believed to be a spy for Stalin. There's a good article on Russia Insight, I think. Let me see if I can find that. And you guys will like this. And I brought this up with Mark Hackard. Olga. That's not her name. Olga. That's like the most common name for a Russian chick, right? I'm never going to find it now. What's her name? You guys know her name. She's the most famous Russian actress of the 30s, and she was a spy under Stalin. Crap, what is her name? I want to find this because you guys should see this article, because I'm watching the show and I'm like, oh, this sounds like her. Let me see. Olga, and then let me put in Stalin spy. I don't know. Russian actress spy for Stalin. There we go. That'll work. Olga Chekhova. That's it. Yes. Okay. So now it doesn't look like her, but the story sounds similar, right? Let me see if I can. The article at Russia Insight is better than these articles. Of course, it's not going to pull it up. What the heck, dude? This is so. I'll just pull up the Wikipedia. Here we go. Actually, it kind of looks like her a little bit, but the chick in the movie, in the show, is blonde, so it doesn't exactly look like her. But okay, so hopefully, if we got all this rigged up right with my fancy setup, I'm so fancy. Olga Konstantinovna Chekhova. Okay. Known in Germany as Olga Chekhova, she was a Russian-German actress, and she even appeared in Hitchcock's movie Mary. Fascinating. She was born in 1897, blah, 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 blah. We're going to skip through all that because we want to find... she went into the Moscow Art Theater, October Revolution. So the idea is that presumably she was spying on Goebbels and Hitler for Stalin. So this is why this is suspected. I don't know if this is proven. It's long suspected. She was in a zillion movies. So she was probably the most famous Russian actress of that time, although she was doing her operations in Germany because German, this is a big budding period for film in Germany, 20s and 30s. They had their own kind of Hollywood going on there as well. I wish I could find that Russia Insight article because that was actually better, but actually let me try to type in her name. Because we learn stuff. It's like school around here. You guys know this. We learn things. Y'all like to learn stuff. You come here, you pay me, although nobody's super chatting tonight, even though this is like super awesome information. If you would, you can support the show with super chats. Maybe learn a little something, dude. Maybe you learn a little something. So Google does not want Russia Insight website to come up. So I guess they just block everything from Russia now because it's all evil racist stuff, right? Well, there is a Russia Insight article on Russia. Maybe it's Russia. No, it's not Russia Insider. Anyway, we'll forget that. So she was probably a spy, but I mean, we don't know for sure. And she may have served as inspiration for the Russian heiress character, right, which plays a big role in the film. In the series in season 1. So she's not that important after season 1, but regardless, the whole point of her character is about the train of gold. So all of season 1 is about tracking down this train of gold. And as we find out, Gereon's father is a high up German minister, right? And he's actually put Gereon in in Berlin's police department undercover. So he's actually a spy for high up minister, ultimately to recover. Shocker, his dad was in a nasty old film reel prawn movie. And that's the trauma of season 1 is that my dad was in this nasty prawn movie with some really nasty German women. I'm talking about, like, I'm not gonna say what. Basically, you could pay for a big old German milkmaid to, well, I'm not gonna say. I can't. We just can't talk about it. But it's gross. Okay, it's degenerate. So it's like the Germans and Japanese people are just coming up with some of the craziest. Like, how'd you even think this up? This crazy sex stuff. Nasty, dude. Ooh, yuck. We're not going to talk about what, but point being is that his dad is Blackmail. And then we find out, who owns the prawn production? It's the organized crime man. The organized crime is runs the prawn. And also one of the guys who used to be in the war with Gereon and Walter, his partner, is doing other types of prawn. You can imagine what I mean. And it's run by the organized crime. So they're blackmailing people. Yes. Like Epstein level stuff, brah. You know what I'm saying? Yes. Everybody remember? Yeah. Muti. I'm not going to say what you go pay Muti to do, but it's gross. Muti. So we've got two characters, and the very beginning it comes full circle in season 3 with the organized crime character known as the Armenian, working with his partner, Mr. Weintraub. The Armenian and Weintraub are partners in organized crime. They run the prawn, and they collect the film reels to blackmail people. They blackmail the ministers, and they use big giant German milkmaid women to lure these people, as well as other worse types of prawn, including, I just can't talk about it, but you get the point. So it's like there's an elite ring of people that brings the elites into the parties. They film it, known and unbeknown to the participants, and then they're blackmailed. And simultaneous to this is an attempt on the part of the previous government of a combination of supporters of the Kaiser and monarchists who are working on a project that's secret called the Black Reichswehr. And after World War I, this was outlawed because this was about the rebuilding of the German Imperium. Okay, so we're not to Adolphus, right? This is pre-Adolphus. We're not to World War II. We're in the post-World War I period, and there's stipulations put on Germany about building up the war machine. But they're secretly doing it, and it's this project called the Black Reichswehr, where out in the country at a gigantic industrialist family's estate, they are rebuilding and training people, and they've made a deal with Stalin to rebuild and train the German troops and army in Russia as well. So they're doing these secret operations to rebuild. And that's fascinating because Herr Nissen, who is this spurgy, weird dude, who's a cucked mama's boy, who is the inheritor of this gigantic Nissen Trust, right? This gigantic industrialist zillionaire family. They want to rebuild. They want to rebuild the Reich. Their plans are foiled in season 1 because they're after the Train of Gold. Train of Gold, I think, gets away. We don't know what happens to it. It flies off and blows up or something. Anyway, so we're at this period where Weimar degeneracy has reached an apex. People are getting blackmailed. There is just, everything that you could think of is going on in Berlin, hence the title Babylon Berlin. No, so makes me think of Hollywood Babylon. And there's a lot of parallels, not just to Hollywood and Hollywood Babylon. And yes, we will be getting into the symbolism of the German expressionist revival that occurred in this period, which plays a big role in season 3. But as you know, Hollywood Babylon by Crowleyan man Kenneth Anger is a good analogy here because a big part of season 3 is going to be the film studios and the cults connected to the film studios. So what we're seeing here, the patterns that are in this show, they're not just about Weimar Germany. It's like right now, man. We are Weimar Germany. It's a perfect analog. And a lot of people who watch the show are like, whoa, this is like right now. Now, I'm not saying, I don't know if we're going into a new world war. I don't know if that's going to happen. It could. I'm just saying that's not really my thesis. I'm just pointing out that when we look at the machinations of the corporations, of the big zillionaire entities, the trusts, these shadow banking groups, we're beginning to see how they arrange the coming war. And the first thing that they do is, in season 3, set up an intentional crash of the market. And this is fascinating because we've already seen, so this is, I'm getting ahead of myself, but so after the Stalinist actress chick, I think she gets killed or she gets away. She runs back to Russia. I can't remember. She is undercover as a, what do we call this? A cabaret performance where she dresses and sings like a man. This kind of stuff. Okay. But she's also a Swallow operative. Okay. And I think hopefully you guys know what that is in terms of espionage. So already in season 1, we're seeing the interplay of entertainment, sex espionage, compromise. That's what all of season 1's about, right? And so we're watching all this play out, and then we realize, oh, actually, Gereon is reporting kind of unknown to himself to his handler. He has a handler. He's reporting to Herr Schmidt, the Carl Jung handler character. And the Carl Jung handler character seems to have some ability to, he's helping Gereon first through giving him these various drugs. And we think, oh, it's because he's got tremors from the shell shock from war. But as we get into seasons 2 and 3, oh no, actually Herr Schmidt is mind controlling Gereon. And then guess what? Oh, he's not just mind controlling Gereon. He's actually mind controlling other people. So he's like this super skilled, I don't know what he is. He's like Carl Jung running the Illuminati, basically. Okay. And there will literally be an Eyes Wide Shut Illuminati scene in season 3, right? So it literally is, that's what this show's about. But before we get to that, so we've seen, of course, his partner will become Charlotte Lotta, and she is a extremely poor yet so it's like the virtuous whore, this archetype in films, which is kind of laughable, but perhaps there's every now and then, it's in scripture. Yes, there is, the possibility of the virtuous whore. That is possible. So that's who Lotta is. And then she's damaged. And then we've got Gereon, the main private detective. He's damaged, but he's a good detective, right? And it's precisely because of his trauma that he can, get in the mind of the killer. Every detective gets in the mind of the killer. That's kind of bullshit, right? But it's okay, right? Yeah, we've seen that a million times, but it works. It works. It's well made. So anyway, but Lotta's in extreme poverty, and so she's just trying to, put some freaking borscht on the dinner table. Right? That doesn't make any sense. That's Russian. Okay. She's just trying to put some kraut on the table. Right? And she's selling her fanny to put kraut on the table. So we have a lot of sympathy for, that's a grandma word for a butt. I don't know why I never say fanny. I just thought it sounded funny. She's selling her fanny for sauerkraut. How much sauerkraut could I get if I sold my fanny? Would it be like a bucket? Would it be 10 buckets? Would it be a ton? Is my fanny worth a ton of sauerkraut? I don't know. You guys can be the judge in the chat. Tell me right now. Or you can pay me super chats and purchase my fanny right now with super chats. And I will also perhaps provide you with sauerkraut. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll check into the catering on that. But so Lotta, you're sympathetic to her, right? And she's conniving, and so she gets her way into the detective department and becomes a detective. And I mean, the feminist stuff is kind of annoying in this film, because it's told from as we said, obviously from a leftist socialist perspective, the story. So we're getting, on the one hand, interesting and good critiques of banking elites and the industrialists, and then we're also getting like this feminist message, and all of the Red Guard women or whatever, they're so annoying, right? They're like perfect, motherly, saintly, self-sacrificing, virtuous, just awesome women, right? The strength of the red women. And I mean, at least they get it accurate, right? Like the feminists are all the red bitches, the red bitches brigade, right? But it's just so over the top, that part of it. That's obviously no, get that out of here. That's not realistic, right? Just because you're a communist, you're not some virtuous, right? And they're framed, right? The false flag that occurs, and yes, it is a fake flag, totally. They blame the Reds. Now, there have been false flags that have blamed the Reds in history. But that doesn't make the Reds virtuous, you see. It's warfare. It's not good guys, bad guys. It's power struggles. It's bad guys versus bad guys, right? Anyway, if you can filter out the propaganda elements, it's still pretty good. So Lotta, right, she eventually becomes a detective. She's with Gereon. This is, again, it's a little unbelievable, this pair. I mean, and she's like the super detective because she's a girl, and she can bring the feminine mystique and charm to the detective agency, which all of the stupid patriarchal men just can't function in this job very well. So thankfully, we have the good-hearted whore who can do the job better than the men, of course. That's all annoying, but anyway. So I have all these notes on the German heiress, or Russian heiress, Svetlanka. She wasn't even that important of a character. But we didn't know that when I was taking these notes. So there's one important note that so it's like It's like, imagine it being like Tavistock in Germany, even though there wasn't a Tavistock in Germany. And the Herr Schmidt character gives some interesting lectures, and he's this kind of really forward-thinking dude. So we see, the local intellectuals around Berlin. They're taken, by this Herr Schmidt character, and they want to hear his theories, and he's talking about the subconscious, right? And they're all like, "What?" So, right, that's where we kind of get, okay, this is like Carl Jung, right? He's doing like a psychoanalysis. And, Gereon goes to him because he'll basically write scripts, right? He'll write him a script. I need that heroin, dog. I need that Could you write me a script for my, he drinks little vials of heroin, right? For his tremors, right? But he's also mind controlling. And we find out that the Armenian, aka the organized crime figure, is also ultimately kind of friendly with Gereon, even though he's an organized crime figure, because they were in the war together, and they both go to Herr Schmidt for their psychoanalysis and their PTSD. By the time we figure that out, that's why we see that the organized crime figures don't go after Gereon. And the organized crime figure figures out, I think, doesn't he, that the Armenian, doesn't he figure out that Gereon's dad is the minister and that he just wanted the incriminating, compromising data on his father, right? So once Gereon gets that, they kind of just agree to part ways. But you notice the organized crime guy, like, he runs the brothels, he runs the prawn, he runs the film studios, and there's an agreed relationship, a friendly relationship between the police department, especially Volta, right? Gereon's first big chunky partner, because he goes to the whorehouse. And there's an agreed relationship between the organized crime and the police department. They just kind of have a gentleman's agreement, right? So you already start to see that, like, the cops are not, I mean, they're corrupt. And in season 3, they're especially corrupt because, right, the serial killer in season 3, shocker, is one of the cops. And they bring in this phantom character, which is interesting. But we'll see some interesting things about German expressionism here in a moment. But so the captain of the Vice Squad is paid off by the Madams, right? And that's Gereon's department and Volta, right? Yeah, Volta. And then, as I said, there's this annoying feminist character, Greta. She's framed, and the Reds are framed with her by this figure who, he's obviously part of the nobility, and she meets him at this, swim meet where all the, like, preppy dudes are swimming. And she's really an idiot because obviously this dude is not a communist. It's so stupid, right? You got this, like, super preppy dude at the preppy park swimming with the preppy dudes, and she falls in love with this guy, and he dupes her and sets her up to bomb the police department, and it's a fake flag operation, right? And so the whole of all of her story, I hate it. It's so annoying. But anyway, so she takes the fall, and don't we feel sorry for the Reds, for the Trotskyites, right? Because they're just so oppressed. But the fascinating thing is that already in season 1, and by the time we get to season 3, we've got this ball of mess between corrupt cops, the Republican Democrat Christian Socialists, or Christian Democrats, excuse me. We've got, hold on, let's list all the players here. It's fascinating. We've got Trotskyites and the Stalinists killing each other. We've got the brown shirts and the Nazis. We've got the who are emerging. They're beginning to get power. And they're mainly just recruiting youth, right? The Jugend. We've got the corrupt cops, organized crime, the Satanists. Yes, the Satanists come into play in season 3. And guess who's in the satanic cult? The actors. All the German expressionist actors are part of the satanic cult, and they go to a big estate and they participate in rituals, which look to be some kind of, it's like the Brotherhood of Saturn, I think they call it, which there was a Brotherhood of Saturn. Sorry, it could be that, or some kind of roughly Crowleyan type of thing. And guess who's running the cult? I know it's a spoiler, but Herr Schmidt. Herr Schmidt runs the satanic cult in the giant estate that programs the actors. Yes, the actors are Illuminati, mind control, sex agent, operative, assassins for Herr Schmidt as well. Well, sort of. He's controlling them. They're not actually the ones that kill, so I take that, but they're not actually assassins, but they're being used by Herr Schmidt in the satanic cult, the Brotherhood of Saturn. As we know, the real killer in season 3 is one of the police. So, so we have, I forgot to mention we have the monarchists, right? So we have General Seeger and the Kaiser people, who are the monarchists. The rising German National Socialist Worker, the NSDAP, the Reds, meaning both the Stalinists and the Trotskyites fighting each other. So you just got this huge interplay of all these figures. And then we get the big money. Okay? So, I mean, the big money is present in season 1 because Herr Nissen is connected to trying to reestablish the Reichswehr, which is true. Look all that up. Look up the Reichswehr and all that fascinating stuff. History. By season 3, he has come up with this gigantic scheme of getting everybody to buy into these put options that will basically bet on the market going, he says, to go up. But they're actually, he's intending to crash the market, betting on knowledge of the U.S. stock market crashing, aka, right, the great stock market crash, right? So he appears to have had foreknowledge, I guess, of this, and he knows that it's going to affect the German stock market. And so he intentionally crashes it in order to rebuild and prepare Germany for the Reich. Now, this is the kind of stuff that this is not just a socialist interpretation of events. This is Anthony Sutton and Carol Quigley stuff, right? Wall Street, right? So, in other words, Herr Nissen, you could say, is kind of like connected to the other wealthy families in America that want this, because, as we know, Quigley says, war is engineered by the industrialists and the bankers. They want the war. This other book, right? Wall Street and the Rise of the Bolsheviks. Because war is a huge racket. It's a giant business. And if you know what a war is going to do, you can put your money where you're going to make money on the war. And that's what Herr Nissen's doing in season 3, speculating. Again, this is literally stuff out of Sutton and Quigley. I don't know if Tom Tykwer has read, Sutton and Quigley. Oh, I forgot to mention, though. We did do an analysis of the International, which is Tom Tykwer talking about the international banking elite and them basically screwing over the IMF, World Bank screwing over the world. So Tom Tykwer knows at least that much, right? Go watch the Clive Owen, Naomi Watts movie, The International. I did an analysis at my website 10 years ago. So he does know how the banking scam works, at least in some degree. And it looks like he understands that, that's actually what was going on in World War I and II. Yeah, the banking elite organized the wars. Exactly. That's what Quigley says. So, just going through my notes here. Spy trade, real secret base outside of Moscow. Yeah, so Herr Schmidt is... I don't understand the radio shows. This is the part I don't understand. Are the radio shows that Dr. Schmidt is doing being broadcast throughout Germany, or is that like in Gereon's head? I can't figure this out. I mean, I know there's like It seems like there's a bunch of people in a mental institute listening to Herr Schmidt. But sometimes Gereon is seeing things in a dream. And he even seems to have premonition dreams, right? This is like a classic, Sherlock Holmes, the detective who has the dreams, this kind of stuff. Because if you notice the beginning of season 3, Gereon has the dream of the stock market crash, right? And the people committing suicide because they lost everything. Because Herr Nissen organized a scam to get everybody to buy into this, right? It was like a Nigerian email scam, right? Like, if you give $5,000 now, we will promise you will get $50,000 tomorrow, right? This kind of a thing. And then everything crashes, so everybody lost everything. But you say, well, why do you do that? Well, there's an interesting conversation that Colonel Wendt, right, who's the main assassin killer guy in season 3, not the corrupt cop, but the guy who's organizing the whole thing with Herr Nissen, right? He's Nissen's co-villain guy, and Colonel Wendt, coming out of the military, he knows how to kill people. He knows how to make it, go away and frame people and this kind of stuff. He is convinced in this conversation that he has with a communist. So he's talking to this communist chick. I think he's spitting game. I don't know. He's trying to hit on this communist chick who I think is the daughter of Colonel Seegers. And she's like, you realize that the speculators are going to ruin the country's economy. And he's like, So he kind of gets this idea, and he and Nissen, right? Nissen, they hatch this plot to destroy the economy. They're like, yes, let's have order out of chaos. Let's intentionally destroy the economy to make $1 zillion on buy everything up because it'll be super cheap. Destroy it, buy it all up. We'll make about $1 zillion, and we will rebuild a new Reich from the ashes. That was fascinating. That was their plan. So then we get Herr Schmidt again. By season 3, we're getting into the domain now of the Eyes Wide Shut Hollywood stuff. And so the majority of season 3 deals with a film production studio and the organized crime figures running this film production studio and the murders that occur. So we start seeing all these murders at the studio, and we can't figure out who the Phantom is, right? Because the killer is actually seemingly enacting and dressing up and doing things that are like this goofy German expressionist movie that they're filming there. And they even took, I think, for inspiration, some of these famous, German films from this period, like Pandora's Box, right? So as you can see, they did a really good job of reconstructing this era. And that girl that you see there, her name is Tilly something. Tilly, what's her name? No, Louise Brooks. So in the show, she's called Tilly Brooks, but she's clearly based on Louise Brooks. And as you know from my book, German Expressionism was very influenced by the Satanic. It was some of the first film to use satanic imagery in their stories. Thus, movies like Pandora's Box, 1929 Germany, clearly, totally, right, the inspiration for season 3. Now, the movie in season 3 is about demons and transhumanism. So now we see Metropolis influence. Yes, because what is Metropolis about? Well, partly about transhumanism. I did a whole essay on that. Because as we know, right, the Babylon, the robot girl, right, she ends up being the end of the society. But to bring this all back to home, because what this is about is Herr Schmidt lays it all out at the end of season 3, and he says, man's problem is man. And man needs to move beyond pleasure and pain. And he says, I need a person who will be the ultimate test subject, who is at once deeply traumatized and in pain, but that also I can move past pleasure and pain, the pleasure-pain dialectic. And he says, you, Gereon, are that man. Now, why? Well, he says the goal is to get rid of man's human characteristics and qualities, to make man no longer a being who feels pleasure and pain, to make him an android, a robot. And he says, you, Gereon, will be the model of how I will move man to become robot. And he's literally saying transhumanism. He's not just saying we'll create robots like men. No, he's saying man will go away and man will become and evolve into robot. In other words, the philosophy of Germanic Satanism, I'm not just saying that it's Germany, but I'm saying that if you look at the elite philosophy of that time period, even 1900s, I'm not just saying it's Germans, I'm just saying that the philosophy that you can see in the art and in the character of Herr Schmidt is a Luciferian attempt to destroy man and go beyond man. It's literally, that's what he says. And Herr Schmidt is a Satanist. He literally runs an Eyes Wide Shut orgy cult called the Brotherhood of Saturn. And if you've seen Metropolis, you know that the mad scientist, right, is creating the AI bot Babylon bitch, right? So the MK Ultra Doctor is a high priest in the Brotherhood of Satan, a satanic Baphomet group. That's what they're called in the show. At the beginning of their liturgy, they begin to chant to Hermes Trismegistus. They have a woman laying on the altar who becomes the gate to become possessed. Now, exactly what's going on here is unclear because she's also an actress with the guy that's the star of the movie who's playing a demon. So the movie is something like the demons of, I forget the name of the movie. What's the name? The movie is significant because the movie is what's going on. So there's this interplay between reality and the movie that they're doing, their Hollywood, right? The esoteric Hollywood is going on in this movie. So it's like a meta level of meta where the movie in the movie is about what they're going to do in the movie's reality, and that's what they're going to do in our reality. Literally, I'm not joking. That's what this is about. So I was trying to find the name of the movie. It's like something of the demons. Do you guys remember that have seen it? The demons of something. De Demones something. But the movie is about androids, demons and androids, right? So it's like transhumanism in the movie. Herr Schmidt says, quote, "We will create the human machine free from fear and pain." It's directly coming out of Metropolis. There's even references to Orpheus, to the death and rebirth of man. And so you've got these layers of different strata of society. So because it's made by, I guess, socialists, obviously there's going to be a class structure. You've got Lotta and her poor family and the ladies, the Flusies of the evening. You've got the middle class of Gereon and his drama and the cops and the merchant class. And then you've got the upper class of Herr Nissen and these people. But even those people are limited in their scope. It's really Herr Schmidt that is the Illuminati guy here, right? He's the real mastermind. And he's the one in the background who runs the satanic cult, controls the actors, mind controls Gereon, presumably also has a degree of influence and control with the organized crime dude, the Armenian. Does he control anyone else? We don't know. I don't think we know if Herr Schmidt has a relationship to Herr Nissen. Do we know that? Is there a connect between Nissen and Schmidt? But regardless, what does appear in the story to be real is that Herr Schmidt does show up to use remote viewing, which is crazy, to locate the knife in season 3, right? So they're trying to find this knife to find the evidence of who was committing the murders at the movie studio. Turns out, yes, it was Weintraub, right? But it wasn't Weintraub. It was actually the people in the police department in forensics. Yeah. So, but again, presumably Herr Schmidt is in the background of all this too. So, again, the biggest thing is that, so you got these layers and strata of society, but it's Herr Schmidt who has the big picture, because he's the one that's connecting all of these worlds, these niches, these circles, and he's the one that has the foresight to see that, no, I want to enact my satanic plan to go beyond mankind. And so it's like Metropolis, right? It's like literally, it's totally Metropolis stuff here, right? And again, if you've never seen Metropolis, it's huge. You got to see that, because they were talking about AI and transhumanism in 19, whenever Metropolis came out. So there you go. Isn't that crazy? So the show at one level is about how society works, how it functions, all of the wheels and gears that turn in a giant machine. And the problems with society, from Herr Schmidt's perspective, are that everybody's human problems revolve around fear, pleasure, and pain. They're trapped in fear, pleasure, pain. They're like the cogs in this giant machine of the city. Yes, in Metropolis, the city is a giant machine. The city is a man. The city is the body. This is a microcosm, macrocosm relationship, right? Straight out of the Platonists, straight out of Maximus the Confessor. Literally, it's right here. Plato says the ideal republic is like a man. It's a city. It's a guy. The elites are the mind. The warriors are the heart. They have courage. And the wage cucks, workers, are the body. They do the body stuff. Okay. So I think you get the point, right? I don't have to keep repeating this. It should be evident. But yeah, I mean, I was not expecting in this detective show for this to turn into a statement on Luciferian elites who want to be post-human. And that's literally what it's about. I was not expecting this to be about trauma-based mind control and remote viewing, and that mind control operatives are also part of satanic cults, and that they run film studios and are handlers. But that's what this is about. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed my breakdown. I know that we didn't. I didn't do the scene by scene. But yeah, that's the thing. This is about. That's it. I don't know what else it's about. There you go. That's it. So I just decoded this whole thing. Nobody else on the internet or YouTube will decode this whole thing the way I just have. They won't give you that full picture. They're gonna tell you about who knows what. Probably the degeneracy. So I think that Babylon Berlin is that it's like Metropolis is a combination of Babylon, and you got the Germanic element, Berlin, right? So this is like the hip, cool, this is like the New York of the time, right? The cool city. And it's Babylon. It's the Tower of Babel. And what's really going on is that this organization, the structure, this machine, this body, is a man. It's a man that's being rebuilt into a new man. It's the Neuer Mann, right? Übermensch. But to build the new man, he must be beyond the weaknesses of regular man. And the weaknesses of regular man are pain, pleasure, trauma, whatever. And so Gereon in the mind of Herr Schmidt is the model for the new man. And so Herr Schmidt is running all of these experiments and tests on Gereon as his lab rat to figure out how to engineer the new man who, through pharmacology and technology, will literally become a god, a transhumanist tech god. There you go. So there we go. Let's go. If you want to support the stream, feel free to super chat with super chats. But I want to stress too that you guys, this is real, not Babylon Berlin. But what this story is about is real. We live in that world. I just covered, and I'm going to cover in detail, the UK transhumanist document. The UK government declassified their Ministry of Defense transhumanist document. It's what I'm talking about. It's the Herr Schmidt document. Herr Schmidt wrote the UK's doctrine of transhumanism. It's official policy. We're going to be covering that soon. It will obviously go into the Elite book series. But do you understand that this show is about that? And this show is telling you that you live in this world. Right? The world that's presented in this fictional series, I'm saying. That's the world that we all live in. And people think it's just a show, it's just a Netflix show, it's ha ha ha, it's just some stupid drama, it's just another Sherlock Holmes detective show, bro. No, this is a philosophy of the modern world, and it is an occult philosophy. It's an occult philosophy of ritual magic, Luciferianism, and becoming God. So it's not about NAZIS or the Reds or the industrialists. You know, those people are all kind of like disposable. What's this? Muggles, right? Like the Harry Potter word or whatever. Is it Muggle? Is that the right word? The people who can't see what's going on, right? The normies. So there you go. Yeah. I think I've covered everything I want to cover on that. I think I've covered all the books. But now it makes me want to go watch Pandora's Box. Right? I've seen Metropolis 2 or 3 times, but I've never seen Pandora's Box, so I have no idea what it's about. Actually, let's look at it real quick before we do the super chats, just for the heck of it, to see what is Pandora's Box and does that relate to the demon movie in the film. German movie. Here we go. So as you can see, yeah, Louise Brooks obviously is the basis for Tilly Brooks in the movie in season 3, and she's an American in the show too. They make her an American. So let's see the plot. It says Lulu is the mistress of a respected middle-aged newspaper man, Ludwig Schoen. One day, she is delighted when an old man, her first patron, Schiegel, shows up at her apartment. He arrives, blah, blah, blah. He's going to marry Charlotte, blah, blah, blah. This sounds like a love drama. Wants to cast her in the Trapeze Act. Now, this is interesting because the trapeze and the trampoline, that was a big thing in this goofy movie that they're making in season 3. Musicals, blah, blah, blah. I'm just looking to see if this has any kind of like espionage or esoteric elements to it, because I don't know what this is. Sells Lulu. Oh, so they're trafficking in women. Sells her for her brothel. That could be relevant. So there's like human trafficking theme going on in this movie. remorseful Jack the Ripper. So we do kind of have an esoteric element, maybe, with the Jack the Ripper figure coming into play. Anyway, I've never seen Pandora's Box, so don't know, but it could be interesting. All right, let's read these super chats. Thank you guys so much. A lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed dissecting this one. It was not what I expected, and you know, maybe it's not for everybody. This may not be your kind of movie. Do you like my new VHS play button tracking off background? I kind of like this. I think this is with a beach. $24 years Californian, $3.33. That's esoteric Masonic money, dude. Masonic money codes. Jay, I'm having trouble understanding what it is to be a man in 2021. Well, look to your archetype, bro. I want to feel part of a real community, but I'm not sure what to pursue. I'm becoming Orthodox, but I don't have any community outside church. Any ideas on how to go about this? No, you're probably not going to have a community outside of church. So guess what? You're going to have to cultivate being able to be alone and spending time with yourself. And guess what? CLDs, cultivating time alone has allowed me to befriend all of the greatest minds of history. So yes, it's going to be difficult, especially in the coming years as things get atomized and probably further collapse. But the great news is that you will actually become wise and friends with the church fathers and great philosophers. So look at it that way, right? Like, look at it like you're going into some kind of training. You know what I mean? So, but I don't know. I don't know where you can find male companionship in California. Maybe at a Magic the Gathering party. I'm joking. Marta, $5. Off topic, Jay, you mentioned von Mises in a band video. I heard he was brought here by Rothschilds. I've never heard that. Not saying it's not true, but I don't know that. How do you see Ludwig von Mises? I just think it's part of the dialectic. I'm not saying that everything in libertarian, Austrian economics is bad. Some good things come out of Austrian economics, but it's limited in its scope. You've got, if you read, I think you're not thinking of von Mises. I think you're thinking of von Hayek, right? Von Hayek was supported by the Rockefellers, and at the end of Road to Serfdom, he talks about how we need a world government. So I think David Rockefeller did his master's under von Hayek. So in that regard, it's part of the dialectic, right? So I'm not pro-communist or Austrian economics. I think Bitcoin and crypto are great practical things to get into, and they come out of Austrian economics. So those are good things. If I was to pick somebody from Austrian economics that I thought was the best, it would probably be Hans Hermann Hoppe, because he argues for the best market and freedom scenario with monarchy. I think that makes sense. If I was to pick that kind of a school. Anyway, but no, that's sorry, I don't know what else to say. Ian to the wild, $5. God bless you. It's not much, but thank you for what you do, Ian. Well, hey, thank you. You don't have to super chat if you are struggling. Don't do that. But thank you so much for that. Instant Peace, $2. Thank you for everything, Jay. I've learned a lot from your videos and lectures. P.S. Reality is reality, dude. Yeah, man. Straight up T-dump philosophy. There we got Ghoster, right? Coming straight out of the Outback. He's the one that recommended. He says, Jay, you need to watch Babylon Berlin. And I did. Thank you, Gooster. Gooster says for $10. Thank you for all your work, Jay. I'm stoked that you got around to this one. Any ideas why they make shows as illustrative as this? Again, I think we've covered the reasons for propaganda, predictive programming in film many, many times. There's a book that you might like called Esoteric Hollywood. Perhaps you have heard of it. I'm just joking. If you guys want more of this kind of analysis, you can buy my books at jaysanalysis.com. Signed copies there. And, of course, in part 2, there is a detailed essay on Metropolis. And I go into Platonism, and I go into Gnosticism and the clear, Platonic, Gnostic elements, socialist elements in Metropolis. So I think Metropolis is a key to interpreting and understanding Babylon Berlin clearly. But why do they make shows as illustrative as this? Well, most people don't figure this out, right? Most people don't know history. TV watchers don't know history. So they don't know they're watching, things that are kind of true. TV watchers, they don't know what a sex operative is. They don't know how organized crime works. They don't know how espionage works. They don't know that bankers engineer and fund wars. I mean, so on one level, they don't care. On one level, it's a great story. On one level, it's gaslighting to show you in your face, to shove it in your face. And we've seen gaslighting like crazy in the last 2 years with all of the coof, right? And it's conditioning. It's all those things. And I think perhaps a kind of a ritual component. It's a hidden in plain sight. The profane can never understand it. That's what I think. It's all those things. David, $5. Have you seen Count of Monte Cristo? Yes, I've seen the movie. It is my favorite movie. Your favorite movie? Wow. That's a bit much. I'm not saying it was bad, but it's definitely not that good of a movie. I think it has a positive message with the recurring motif of God will give me justice. Yeah, it does have a positive message. In fact, I've never read the novel. I bought the novel not too long ago with the intention of reading it. And I think you're right. It's definitely a wholesome story for sure. He perseveres in divine providence, trusting God's providence. Yeah. Media Bear, $5. Thank you for being on tonight, Jay. Thank you very much. Don Deary, $10. Happy Monday. Happy Monday to you. I wish it wasn't decoding degenerate Weimar Republic, mind control Illuminati, MK Handler, Carl Jung, stand-in clone, Metropolis, satanic expressionist analysis, but that's what you get tonight. The Long Dangle, $3. Thank you, Long Dangle. And he says nothing. He says silence. Right. All right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown. I think I covered all the main things. I can't think of any extra points. I'm sure you guys will come up with things that I missed. Let's see. We hit the fake flags. We hit everything about Herr Schmidt. I didn't really touch on bio-warfare, but that's actually a big part of season 1. I guess that was new, at the time, like yellow, like mustard gases, that kind of stuff. And the gases have to do with traumatizing, right? So Gereon sees his horse wearing the horse gas mask, right? And the horse dies, or the horse becomes a triggering thing because he sees the horse on the wall when he sees the Dirty movie, right? Because he recognizes where they filmed it because I guess it's his horse or his dad's painting of that horse, right? We hit on organized crime, mobsters, prawn, collapsing the government, rebuilding, short selling the market to destroy it and rebuild it, transhumanism, Metropolis, Orpheus. Oh, there's interesting references to the camera as the eye, and the eye as the camera, and the camera as an all-seeing eye, and how that ties into MK Ultra. That was interesting in season 3. Demon is the yes, this is one thing I forgot. In the movie, the plot of the movie in the show is about demons being the ideal man, because the demon is beyond fear and pain. And the closest thing to the demon is a robot And so that's why man needs to become a robot, aka a demon. And so, yeah, that was interesting. Glad I pointed that out. Herr Schmidt says it will be a new world order, and that it will be an order of post-human transhumanism. And Gereon will be the archetype or the pattern for the new man through trauma. Trauma-based mind control will form the new man. How is the new man formed by trauma-based mind control? Through movies, film, German expressionism, satanic in the film. The film satanic ritual goes into your eye camera, into your mind, and mind controls you to be